Well, good morning. It's been a while since the last class. We should remember what was last time. We started learning chapter 6 that speaks about the two attempts of David to rise the ark to Jerusalem. So the ark was, Aron Kodesh was in other place. And when David decided to make Yerushalayim the capital of Israel, of the kingdom of Israel, part of this is also bringing the Aron Kodesh and later build the Beit Mikdash. That were his plans. That after that couldn't come true, but that was the plan. Now, it's an important point here that you want. So this is the efforts around making Jerusalem the capital. It's not only the political capital or the army capital or the industry capital. It's also the religious capital. And this is something that today we tend to prefer to separate between state and religion. In the United States, I think it's in the Constitution, right?
Only in France, no?
Joe?
It's in the Constitution that the country will make will not support a religion. I'm not exactly sure the exact wording of it.
Yeah, but there is like a total separation between religion and state. In Canada, I think it's not total separation because we have the Catholic system of the schools and other things that
France?
I'm not sure about France also. Yeah, so some states tend to do that, and sometimes it's better because it gives you more liberty, and people today not necessarily belong to the same religion in the same country, in the same state, so it makes a lot of sense. But when we are talking about the kingdom of David, one of the unique things that we are going to see also later in this chapter about this kingdom, that it's not separating religious from state. Actually, the states in one of the tools of the religion, which is also very fitting to the Parashat HaShavua that we learned last week, Parashat Shoftim, that speaks about the leadership of Am Yisrael divided to 4 authorities or 4 kinds of leadership, which is the Shoftim, the judge, the Kohanim, sacerdotes, how do you say? Kohanim is sacerdotes. In Spanish, it's sacerdotes.
Kohanim. Priests.
Priests, right? Okay, yeah. The Kohanim, the prophets, and the king. So these are like 4 arms of the government or 4 arms of the leadership. But all of them, even though the king is more the secular function of the country, it's also committed to the service of God. And he has to have the Torah with him all the time. And he has to follow the rules of the Torah. He's not above the law. So when David is forming his kingdom in Jerusalem, it's not only that he's bringing the palace there and he's building his house there and his court and all the people and the army, but it's also bringing the ark, like making it the center of Am Yisrael, of the spiritual life of Am Yisrael. So that's why I tried to bring the ark to Jerusalem. This is the general, I would say, the general structure of these chapters. Also the next chapters, the former chapters, all of them is about making Jerusalem the center of Am Yisrael, materially and spiritually. But here in this chapter, when we read about that, we see the first attempt that failed with the death of Uzzah. Remember the story? They brought the ark to Jerusalem, and in the way, it was almost falling down, and the person called Uzzah tried to stop it, to hold it, or to maybe that it will support him. We can read that in 2 ways. And he was dead, he was killed in the place. And David stopped everything. And he said, it's not the time to bring the Aron to Jerusalem. Maybe it's not the way because it's too hard to live so close to such a holy things. It can eliminate us. We saw the same idea in the desert that only the Leviim could approach the Kelim. Also after the Kohanim covered the clay Kodesh, the vessels of the Mishkan, only then the Levim could approach and carry it, and Am Yisrael couldn't even approach for that. So it was like, there is a separation between the holiness and human being because it can be dangerous. And we saw that also with the death of the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, and we saw that also in the death of the 250 leaders in the time of Korach that used the Machtot to make the... So there is a danger, a risk of being too close to the holiness, to the highest holiness. And that's why David preferred to leave it far away from him, to leave it in the house of Beit Oved Edom Agiti. Right? This is where we arrived last time. So it says, so David would not bring the ark of God to his place in the city of David. Instead, David diverted it to the house of Oved Edom the Gittite. Because he said maybe we should separate. Maybe we shouldn't have the temple so close to where we live, or where the center of Am Yisrael. What was the reason for the death? So we explained we can say technical reasons, but maybe there is a deeper reason. The technical reason, we said, Chachamim mentioned that, as we can read in the verses in the Torah itself, the only one who is allowed to carry the Aron Kodesh is the Leviim, and it doesn't mention that the Leviim did that. The second is, you cannot carry the Aron Kodesh in a chariot, in a kirkara. You have to hold it by shoulder. And in Sefer Shmuel, it doesn't mention it, but in the second attempt that we are going to see soon, in Sefer Divrei Yamim, it mentions that these two mistakes were corrected, were fixed. Only the Leviim carried it, and they carried it in the shoulder, on the shoulder, not carried it with a chariot, with nothing else.
The Torah mentioned that Avodat HaKodesh Shalem.
Bakatef Yisrael, that's what I said. So it's a question. It's a good question. We talked about that last time, and we said that maybe understood that it was only in the desert. It wasn't like a general instruction. But be it one way or another, the technical mistake is a testimony to a deeper mistake. It's not just there. And if we will see next, the second attempt, we should notice the differences between them. And so before arriving there, let's read a little bit more. So we saw that when the ark was in the Beit Oved Edom Agiti, the blessing came to that house. The ark of God reminded in the house of Oved Edom the Gittite. How do you read that? Gittite? 3 months. And God blessed Oved Edom and his whole household. So there are two, the Oved himself, but not only Oved, all his house. When he says all his house, meaning his family, his children, so children can live near the ark without get armed. And the wives can live near the ark. Again, in Sefer Divrei Yamim, it says even more clearly, it said in the house of Oved Edom Agiti. It wasn't that he had like a special synagogue to put the Aron Kodesh. It was in the same house of Oved Edom Agiti, and no harm would cost. And all the people were blessed. Chachamim said that the wives of his children brought 6 babies in one pregnancy. Like, say it a bit hard. I don't know if it's a blessing or not. Yeah, it's a blessing. It's the same what Chachamim said about Mitzrayim, Egypt. Shisha Yodim Bekeres Achat. It's not necessarily what happened in the real life, but it's like symbolically means a lot of blessing, a lot of life, a lot of success. In 3 months, suddenly you can see, you can notice that. It's not something that you can ignore. Something special is happening around the Aron Kodesh when he is treated in the right way. When we are dealing with Aron Kodesh in the right way, it will bring blessing, not death. Okay? The same idea we see after the story with Korach. And that people were upset, and suddenly it started a plague in the people, and many people died. Yeah. So Moshe told Aaron, take the machta with the ktoret and stand between you and the people. Why the ktoret? Because the ktoret was the cause for the death of the 250 people that did that. So we say that the Torah says the same thing that can bring you death, it can also bring you life. When Aaron stood there between the groups, it saved the life of the people, right? So the idea, the question is the approach. So you understand that something basic in the approach in the first time wasn't correct. And that was the reason for all the other mistakes of touching the Aron Kodesh, of carrying it with a chariot, of carrying it not with the Leviim, right? All these mistakes come from the same source of wrong approach to the Kodesh, to the holiness. And the question is, what is a mistake? What is a wrong approach? So let's continue reading. It was reported to King David, God has blessed Oved Edom's house and all that belongs to him. meaning not only he himself, all the people around him, everything in his house was blessed by that because of the ark of God. Thereupon David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David amid rejoicing. Now we are going to read about the second attempt to bring the successful attempt to bring the Aron Kodesh to Jerusalem. When the bearers of the ark of God has moved forward 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. David wearied with all that is made before God. David was girt with a lined ephod. Thus David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of God with shouts and with blasts of the horn. בתרועה ובקול שופר. We are close to Rosh Hashanah. תרועה, it says here shouts, but תרועה usually it's the broken voice of the shofar. We have the straight voice of the shofar, which is תקיעה, and we have the broken voice. So, how the תקיעה goes? We have תקיעה, תרועה, תקיעה. Right? So we have also shvarim, shvarim תרועה, but all that because of the doubt of what is exactly תרועה. So we have straight, broken, straight. Now let's compare this verse to the former verse. It says here, ודוד וכל בית ישראל מעלים את ארון השם בתרועה ובקול שופר. How it was said before in the first attempt. Meanwhile, David and all the house of Israel danced before God to the sound of all kinds of cypress wood, with lyres, harps, hand drums, sistrums, and cymbals. So there are 2 big differences. First of all, the word mesachakim. Mesachakim, playing. Playing, it also can be laughing. Schok. Schok asa li Elokim. Meaning, there is a lot of happiness. When you have a lot of happiness, parties, etc., sometimes what you're doing, you are crossing the limit. And you are losing what part? The part of seriousness, reverence, right? So we always have these 2 sides. We have the love and fear. We have the excitement and the reverence. And we should not lose the balance. The first attempt was only emphasizing the part of the joy, the happiness, and the partying and celebrating, with removing or not giving enough place to the fear of God, to this part. So when you have the fear of God, you can also have the celebration and you can have the party, but you cannot forget this part. The balance should always be maintained. And that apparently was a mistake. And then where you feel that you can touch the Aron Kodesh, maybe you can feel that you can maybe laugh a little bit outside, saying some jokes, being like light a little bit. So this apparently was the wrong approach. The wrong approach was emphasizing the love without the part of the fear, emphasizing the celebration without the part of the awe. And that was the thing that was corrected in the second time. So first of all, it was with joy, amid rejoicing, besimcha. It was with dancing and singing, but it was also with fear. First of all, we have here the korbanot, the sacrifice. We're going to see later there are 2 kinds of sacrifice. Tru'ah ve'kol shofar. The broken voice represents the fear. The kol shofar, the straight word, the tkiah, represents the happiness, something that you are filled, complete, right, shalem, with a voice that is straight. So we have in the second attempt, we have these 2 aspects, and this is so important when you are bringing the Aron Kodesh to Jerusalem, when you are bringing the holiness into the life itself, is to keep always maintaining these two aspects. When you are going to shul, you have to feel happy and connected, and in your house from one side. From the other side, don't forget that you are in shul. Don't start speaking about business or about things that you're doing in your free time. Or only fundraising. Yeah, I mean, don't forget that even so you feel at home, it doesn't mean that it's your home. It's a home of God, right? So this is always what we should maintain, this balance.
There is also pasuk before when Yat Shofar, Ala Elokim Torah, Hashem b'kol shofar. It's also mentioned Torah.
Yeah, always in Rosh Hashanah we have always these two aspects, Torah and Tkiah. Yeah, and also here it says Chagur ephod bad. What does it mean? It was greet with a line and ephod. So always we see ephod related to Kohanim, and it was also said about Shmuel. So this is like it's a very simple cloth, ephod bad. It's a fabric. It's a pishtan. How do you say pishtan? Linen. Yeah, it says a linen. Yeah, linen cloth, very simple, white. This is the cloth of the Kohanim that serve God. Okay, so I'm serving God. I'm not celebrating my own joy, my own happiness, or to have fun, to enjoy myself. I'm celebrating because of the honor of God. So I'm not forgetting that I'm his servant. I'm Chagur ephod bad. Here we have a comment that we're going to have to explain a little bit later more. As the ark of God entered the city of David, Michal, daughter of Shaul, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and whirling before God, and she despised him for it. Yeah, we talked about that, so it's already mentioned here. We are going to see that later a little bit more. But it looks like David was dancing very forcefully or very energetically, right? It looks like he's one of the guys that party in the streets, or I don't know, lads that
He was carrying on like Simchat Torah.
Yeah, like Simchat Torah. It looks for her as a daughter of a king, as a princess that grew up in the palace. Yeah, it always almost say Michal bat Shaul. Once it doesn't say Michal bat Shaul when she helped him run away from Shaul. Yeah, but yeah, it's important comment that it's bat Shaul. She grew up in the palace when she is a princess, and she knows how kings behave. And it's not what she sees now with David. Maybe there is more than that. On that, we're going to see that later. So they brought in the ark of God and set it up in the place inside the tent. Why tent? Because we don't have the Beit Mikdash. So it's still in the tent. It's not Oel Moed, because Oel Moed is in Givon right now. It's going to be brought later and build the Beit Mikdash. Yeah, so it's for a long time the ark was separate from the Mishkan. The Mishkan was in one place and the ark was in other place.
But it doesn't mention if they build the Mishkan again after it's destroyed.
So we know that the Aron Kodesh was in other place since the war against the Plishtim.
Yeah.
And we know that the Mishkan was in different places. It was in Nov Ir HaKohanim.
Oh, it was built again in different places.
Yeah, it was built in different places after Shiloh. Shiloh was destroyed and it moved from place to place. Chachamim mentioned without the ark. So the ark was brought to Jerusalem first, and after that the temple was built there around it. Anyway, it was put in a tent in the meantime. The intention of David was to build the Beit Mikdash immediately. We'll see that in the next chapter. But in the meantime, it was put in a tent. David had speech for it, and David sacrificed burnt offering of well-being before God. So Olah and Shlamim. So we talked several times the difference. Olah is sacrificed completely, and Shlamim, there are parts that are eaten by the Kohanim and by the people that brings it. And again, these two things represent these two aspects. Olah, totally for God. I don't have anything for myself. All what I do is for God, right? It's the honor of God. It's the awe of God. Shlamim, I also participate. I also enjoy it, right? So we have first Olot, and after that Shlamim. Okay, we have this combination. When you have the Olah, you can also bring the Shlamim. When you have the fear, you can also have the La. When you have the awe, you can also have the celebration, right? You must, yeah, that's what you have to have. So I think that the Tkiah also represents that. The basic approach is La, right? I'm doing everything because of La, because I want to be connected. But when I try practically to approach, I must first put the Torah, the fear. And then after that comes the joy. So we have Tkiah, this is a basic approach, Torah, which is a practical approach, and then the result is Tkiah again. Okay, so we can go in this direction. When David finished, so here also there is a question, a lucky question. It looks like David himself was sacrificing. Vayal David olot lifnei Hashem. So usually we are not allowed to other people to make sacrifice. The Kohanim should do sacrifice, and we already say that David made mistake by not following the rules in the first time. So why he is not following the rule right now. So there are several answers for that. First of all, that maybe that was permitted in one time, and he got special permission for that. The second explanation that I think can be said that there are parts of the korban that non-Kohen can do. Basically, the shchita, the slaughtering, can be done by others, not by Kohanim only. So maybe David did that, and the other part was done by the Kohanim. Also, we can say, when it says Vaya'al David, it doesn't mean that he himself did that, meaning that he orders the Kohanim to do that, not that he's doing them by himself. The Malbim says that David himself did that.
But there is another question. On their way to Yerushalayim, it was?
When you don't have...
you sacrifice outside the Mishkan.
Yeah, but it's allowed, before the building of Bet HaMikdash, it's allowed to sacrifice Babamot. Right. Okay, so when David finished sacrificing the burnt offering, so like I said, the three explanations. When you're saying that the first explanation, David got special permission. The second explanation, he did what he's allowed to do by other people. The third explanation, when he says that David did that, it doesn't mean that by himself. It means that in Divine Mim it's mentioned more, that every 6 steps, they did 6 korbanot. And it was like a lot of korbanot. All of that was done by David. Maybe, but maybe when it says David did that, meaning order people to do that. When it says, for example, that Joshua took that city, doesn't mean that he did it by himself. It means that Am Yisrael did that, right? They were sent by him. When David finished sacrificing the burnt offerings, offering of well-being, he blessed the people in the name of God of hosts. There is a mention, it's mentioned here by Ma'arikra. Usually the bracha of the people is not by Hashem Tzvaot, is by Hashem, name of Hashem. We say, V'vachecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Yosef, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yosef Hashem alechem kachem elef pamim. He used the name God, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Here he uses the name Hashem Tzvakot. Why? Because the ark is called Aron Hashem Tzvaot. We mentioned that the word Hashem Tzvaot, Tzava is army.
Maybe here
soldiers.
Egypt.
We say that the name Hashem Tzvaot is first time mentioned in Sefer Shmuel, and it's related to the kingdom of Israel. So when the Aron Kodesh is brought to Jerusalem, to the political center, to the secular center or capital of Am Yisrael, it is also called Hashem Tzvaot, and it represents new phase in the national life of Am Yisrael. When you are a nation with a kingdom under the government of God. And after that, also, we don't have celebration without food. And he distributed among all the people, the entire multitude of Israel, men and women alike, to each a loaf of bread, a cake made in a pan, and a raisin cake. What is raisin? It's a tzimukim?
Right.
Yeah.
Raisins.
Raisin cake. Then all the people left for their home. So everybody is celebrating. The celebration is complete. They are on arrived in peace to the place. It looks like everything is perfect and ready to the building of the temple. And then we have the story of David and Michal. So David went home to greet his household. And Michal, daughter of Shaul, came out to meet David and said, "Didn't the king of Israel do himself honor today, exposing himself today in the sight of the maidservants of his subject as one of the riffraff?"
Mana achorona מהאישה. That's what we say in Hebrew.
What? Low life?
Low life.
Riffraff might expose himself. So of course she is criticizing him. It's not really that he says that he's honored today. Sarcasm, right? Kind of sarcasm. And the answer of David is very, very sharp. David answered Michal, "It was before God who chose me instead of your father and all his family and appointed me ruler over Israel, God's people. I will dance before God and dishonor myself even more, and be low in my own esteem. But among the maidservants that you speak of, I will be honored." Who is right? Who is right?
He is right.
Michal is saying, you are a king. You must behave like a king. You cannot behave like someone from the street. He said, no, it's in front of God. When you are in front of God, it's different. Who is right? 2 arguments should be heard and has a point. It looks like the Bible decides very, very clearly who is right and who is wrong in the next verse. So, to her dying day, Michal, daughter of Shaul, had no children. Okay, so a few words about this discussion. So, of course, Michal is right in some aspects. The king should behave. There are several halachot related to the place, to the status of the king. The king must, for example, always be well dressed. His hair should be cut. He should be organized and cleaned, and he cannot forgive his honor. If someone disrespect him, he must punish him. מלך שמחל על כבודו עם כבודו מחול.
It's like
Right.
David HaMelech is somebody that chased him for that.
We're going to see that, yeah, but so for sure, the king must respect his status because it's not his personal status, it's the status of the nation. This week there was a photo of the president of Israel, Herzog, with the people that came from the United States to speak about it. So I saw someone wrote in the internet, I think he's right, that he was embarrassed to see this photo because the house where the president received them is very, very not beautiful, very, very not respected. Yeah, it was in a very small room. In the table take like half of the room.
Sometimes people don't pay attention to that.
Yeah, he said to see this photo, it looks like we are a poor country that cannot afford a proper place where the president can receive diplomats from other countries. So this is not respectful, not for the president, for Yitzhak Herzog.
The Prime Minister house.
It's also the house of the Prime Minister is a shame. It's not the personal embarrassment of the president. It's an embarrassment of Am Israel, of the state of Israel that doesn't have respectful place. So also what Michal's saying here is true, but this is with one exception. What David is saying, yeah, I have to be a king and I have to rule and I have to respect myself, etc. But when it's in front of God, it's different. And this is the main point maybe about the difference between kingdom of David and kingdom of Shaul. Shaul put his personal honor before the honor of God. And we saw that several times in the war against Amalek and in the first war against the Plishtim, when he said the people won't respect me, and he made for himself a monument to remind Yad, to respect his victory. He was very worried about his personal status. But the main purpose, the main goal of kingdom in Israel is not to serve the king, is to serve God. It should be true also with other nations, of course, but in this case, it's the purpose of the government, of the states, is to serve the people, not the people to serve the government. This is a basic change that was made in the last generation. It wasn't like that. Before that is the people are for me, I'm the king, the people are for me, I'm above them. That was a shift that was made in the Western world and also in other places in the last generations when we say the government is not for itself, it's for the people. How to manage that, it's a question. You can argue, you can have discussion, you can have elections, but it's not for you, it's for the people. You are the servant of the people. In this case, it's another point. It's you are the servant of God. And the purpose of the kingdom of David is to serve God. So that's what he says. In front of God, there's no difference between me and other people. I will be with the people. I will be with the simple people that you mentioned. Because in front of God, we are all the same. So we are the same flesh, as you say, flesh and blood, right? We all were born from a woman. I wasn't fall down from the sky, from heaven, from angels, right? I'm a human being, and there is something above me. While recognizing that there is God above me is saying I'm the same like everybody else when it comes to be. So here there's no kings in front of God.
No kings.
And there's no kings and there's no priests. Everybody is the same. So I will maintain my honor as a king in other cases. But when we are talking about serving God, I will be like everybody else because this is my main purpose. And this is my the main goal of the king of Israel is to be one more instrument in building the kingdom of heaven, not kingdom of men. Right? And this is the big difference. There are some other explanation here that is mentioned that all the relationship between David and Michal, it's a complicated issue. We mentioned several times.
Michal given to another man.
He was given to another man, it's another point. But apart from that, we already mentioned several times that Michal is the only woman in the Bible that is mentioned that she loved a man. We have several cases when it says a man loved a woman. Yaakov loved Rachel, Yitzchak loved Rivka. There are many places like that. No place in the Bible a woman loves a man, apart from Michal, with David. It doesn't say that he loved her back. What's exactly was it? He demanded to return her, but only after return to Jerusalem or after return to be a king. Then he demanded to return her, but was it the same like before? We don't know. Another point here, it says that she looked from the window. Why is it important
She
to...
didn't came to celebrate. She was like,
Okay, yeah, but why is it important to mention Be'ad HaChalon from the
oh,
window?
it's like Eshet Yisra.
It's also mentioned as a Sitra Be'ad
Very
HaChalon. Yeah, but I think that, try to remember, do you remember a story with window and Michal herself?
Oh, yeah,
What's happened with window with Michal?
David go out.
Right. She let
Yeah,
them, when Shaul wanted to kill David in his house, in his bed, she put something in his bed and she told him to run away from the window. So also here she said like, I was sacrificing myself for you. What did you do for me when I was taken and was given to other person? And only when you had, you didn't do anything, right? Until only after many years later. So there is something also, the connection between the house of David and the house of Shaul should have happened in two ways: by his marriage with Michal, and by Jonathan serving with David as a vice king. Both failed. Right? The marriage didn't bring children, as it says here. We're talking about the children in a minute, and Jonathan died before time. Like we said many times, maybe this combination could have been the perfect combination. Like
but the Gemara says,
Yemot HaMashiach said, we have Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. Yeah, so, yeah, of course. David is after Shaul, and it will be continue. But the ingredient of the house of Shaul or the house of Rachel, by the way, there are a lot of comparison between Rachel and Michal in the relationship between Rachel and Yaakov and Michal and David. I didn't talk about that, but the right combination is the house of Leah and the house of Rachel, David and Shaul. It should have been some kind of combination. It didn't work in the times of David. We said that in the times of the Mashiach, we'll have the Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. The two aspects would be united. But in this generation, it didn't work. And it was failing in the two cases. So, like we said, it looks like the Bible is in the side of David very clearly. When he says that Michal didn't have a child, it's not by accident, it's not randomly mentioned here. It looks like a punishment for her behavior. Some say it means that this discussion led to a breaking between them. They weren't together anymore, something like that. Chachamim said, what does it mean until the day of her death? That she died while giving birth. Until the day of her death. But in the day... Yeah, so we have, there are mentioned three women. The Gemara says there are three women that died in the day of giving birth. Rachel, the daughter of the wife of the son of Eli. It also says that yeah, so it says that she had a son and she died in this day, and she called him Ikavod and Michal. So it said she didn't have a child until the day of her death, but in the day of her death she did have a child, meaning she died while giving birth. So it's a little bit more optimistic end. A little bit more, right? Dying in your birth is not something good, but the fact that it has continuation. And after that, it also mentioned that one of the sons of David that are mentioned in the list of sons, we saw that before, the son of Eglah is Michal, according to Chachamim. Eglah is Michal. Chachamim also mentioned that the criticism of Michal is related to tzniut, to modesty, or it's not like arrogance. It says you are not keeping tzniut. It says that in the house of Shaul they didn't reveal the heel of their feet or the hands, like this part of the hand. They were very tznuim, tznuim in the meaning of dressing. Right, so it was out of like tzadikut. And David says, where we are sentencing in front of God, you don't have to be strict. We have several definitions, but I think that this is the main point. What is, and that was David telling her, my kingdom was chosen by God more than your father's kingdom. So my approach is the right one. The approach that's putting God first and the honor of the king second, and not changing, not replacing these priorities, right? The honor of the king comes after the honor of God, not before it. And this was a mistake that was happening several times in the time of Shaul. Okay.
We finished the chapter.
Yeah, we changed the chapter. Yeah. Okay, well.
Now he wants to